What is good, everyone? What is good? Welcome back to another video. Today, we're jumping back into the Go Battle League arena, this time once again trying our luck in the Open Great League, and this is going to be a little bit of a different type of video, as we're still going to be featuring battles, but the team that we're going to be featuring today was actually a challenge issue to me by a friend and a member of the community, Papi Sucio. So thank you for the challenge. The team provided for us today is Lantern on the lead, Defense Deoxys on the safe swap, and Shadow Venusaur in the back. Now, while this is a strong team, especially in the individual facets, so Lantern, of course, very strong in its own right. Defense Deoxys has excellent play, or at least neutral play into pretty much everything in the meta. And then Shadow Venusaur, maybe less meta, but still super duper strong, as Frenzy Plant is an insanely busted charge move, along with the charge move of Sludge Bomb does allow Venusaur to have at least neutral play into pretty much everything except for Registeel. But where the challenge comes is this team has a lot of shared weaknesses, primarily Alolan Sandslash. So Alolan Sandslash able to hit Lantern and Venusaur for super effective damage. Lantern with Drill Run, Venusaur with Ice Punch. Our back two Pokemon also don't have the best combined coverage over flyers, so something like Altaria or Noctowl are particularly at least somewhat difficult for this team. Yes, we have Thunderbolt on Defense Deoxys, but still those Noctowls, Altarias, and some other flyers will be difficult for this team. And then we don't have a hard check to Sableye, which does create some problems for us. But we were issued the challenge. We have no other choice but to accept. Let's go ahead and hop into some battles and see if we were able to overcome this challenge provided to us. Getting into the first one, we have Lantern on the lead against Skarmory. Right away, this is a fantastic lead for us. Opponent realizing that they have a horrible lead, they're going to pivot out into their Vigoroth, and we're actually going to counter swap into our Venusaur. Reason being is that I don't mind losing Switch here, especially if we're able to get opponent with all shields down, because Defense Deoxys will still be able to deal neutral damage with counters as well as super effective damage with Thunderbolts. And as we see opponent shielding up one Frenzy Plant, shielding up both Frenzy Plants, expending both of their shields to block our Frenzy Plants, they're making a clear play for Switch here, and we're gonna let them have it. The Body Slam able to KO our Venusaur, and like this, we can bring in our Defense Deoxys, deal super effective counter damage onto the opponent's Vigoroth, farm all the way down, even if we have to eat multiple Body Slams. Fortunately for us, we do not, as the opponent chooses to not delay the inevitable and calls game. Well played by them and by us identifying our win condition. Thank you for the match. As we hop into the next battle, we have Medicham on the lead against our Lantern. This is a tough matchup for Lantern, as we do lose the zeros, but we are able to narrowly win the ones. But we want to make sure that we do keep Lantern alive, particularly for any potential Noctowls in the back. The opponent stays in with their Medicham for an extended period of time. They fire off a Psychic and they continue building up to the next Psychic before pivoting into a Lantern of their own. We land our first Thunderbolt, and the opponent is going to fire off the same move into our Defense Deoxys. Obviously, T-Bolt from a Lantern has stab. It's going to do more damage, but like this, we're going to land another T-Bolt. We're going for the Psycho Boost. Unfortunately, unable to get there, as we will be bringing back our Lantern here, going for the farm down onto the opponent's Lantern, but not before they're able to land a Thunderbolt, which will be doing about 35% damage to our Lantern. Opponent will be bringing back in their Medicham, and they do get the successful snipe. Will it be the Psychic? They do full send the Psychic, forcing us to expend our first shield. Lantern able to fire back with a T-Bolt, claiming the opponent's first shield and getting to the second Thunderbolt here, as the farm down is coming in very clutch for us. We're going to hard swap into our Venusaur, going for the aggressive farm down, but we will have to expend our final shield on this Ice Punch from the opponent. We do see what they have in the back, and it's going to be a Dugong. This is going to be a race. We need to get to the back-to-back Frenzy Plants before the opponent can get to their first charge move. Frenzy Plant number 1 grabs the opponent's final shield. Frenzy Plant number 2, we just reached it as the opponent fires off an Icy Wind, and this will be enough to KO our Venusaur. And like this, the opponent able to call game, as we're not even going to bother throwing here. Dugong clears our final 2 Pokemon. Well played by the opponent. Thank you for the match, and it was a narrow defeat. Thank you for the match, though. Hopping into the next battle, we have a horrible lead. Lantern on the lead against Meganium. I absolutely love Meganium, but a little bit less in this instance, as it will be hard countering our Lantern. We're going to safe swap into our Deoxys, and we're greeted by another hard counter. This is Sableye on the counter swap by the opponent. Sableye has built up a massive amount of energy here. They're at nearly the back-to-back, and they will be able to win CMP here. Was this a misplay? We shielded the first foul play, but we will not be shielding the second, as Sableye is now energy dry, but they were able to KO our Deoxys as well as grab our first shield. We're going to have to fire off this Surf before the opponent gets to another foul play. They're okay with allowing their Sableye to go down, and like this, they're going to be pivoting out into their Registeel. This is quite possibly the hardest counter that Venusaur can see here, as even though we are Shadow, none of our moves are really going to be touching the Registeel. However, we are able to grab the opponent's first shield. Unfortunate for us, a terrible situation gets worse, as the Zap Cannon does deal resisted damage to our Grass Poison type, but it does debuff our attack, meaning the opponent can easily no-shield that Frenzy Plant without even a scratch on their tin can. We're going to shield up the next charge move. We're making a play, stalling out the switch clock, and we are able to successfully stall it out. However, there's not a big win con for us here. I'm trying to find it. We pivot back into our Lantern, but there you see Thunderbolt is doing essentially nothing against the opponent's Meganium, and they have now built up to the back-to-back Frenzy Plants. Remember, our Venusaur is very low. We're going to be firing off one Sludge Bomb. Will it be able to KO the opponent's Meganium? They're going to expend their final shield, so respect on them for showing respect to our Venusaur. They are at the charge move on their Registeel, so it didn't really matter from there, as the opponent calls game. Well played by them. Thank you for the match. We had Venusaur hard countered. We still fought the good fight, but hopping into the next battle, we have a Lowland Sandslash against our Lantern. Now, this is the Pokemon that made this challenge the most challenging. Remember, Sandslash is able to hit 2 of our 3 Pokemon for super effective damage with its charge moves, and also will be dealing super effective Shadow Claw damage onto our defense Deoxys. So we're going to be pivoting out into our DD, and we're greeted by the opponent's counter swap of Noctowl. Now, the opponent did shield up our first T-Bolt, and we're going to match shields here, as we do want shields down as much as possible. We're making a play for switch here, hoping to get our DD aligned with the opponent's Sandslash. We're going to be able to grab the opponent's final shield, and they will be able to reach this next charge move. What's it going to be? It's just the Sky Attack, as we do call the Sky Attack shield bait, and this next Sky Attack is going to be able to KO Deoxys, but it does mean that the Noctowl is now energy dry. We're going to be able to overfarm by a bit, but no, opponent realizes what our plan is, and they're going to immediately pivot out into their A-Slash, but they do bait with the Ice Punch, and we successfully call the bait. Remember, opponent full shields down. They are not going to be appreciating that Thunderbolt, as it does get the opponent extremely low. They're going to be firing off the Drill Run here, and we will be able to outpace, and opponent top lefts, they FF, as we call game in the unlikeliest of scenarios. Well played by them. Thank you for the match. Hopping into the next battle, we have another relatively tough lead, Altaria on the lead against our Lantern. Now, it's a tough lead, but this is where we want to see the Altaria, and unfortunately for me, I was slow to swap, and because of that, I panicked and threw my energy into this Medicham. I'm going to build back up into the Thunderbolt, and we're actually going to be playing this matchup out now. We fire back-to-back T-Bolts into the opponent's Medicham. We go for the catch on the potential Psychic, and we are able to catch, and it will be the Psychic, as that does minimal damage. And now we can have a Thunderbolt ready, or nearly ready, for the opponent's Altaria, as it will be coming back in. Altaria continuing to build energy, but they will have to expend one shield. No, they do not respect the T-Bolt damage, and there you see it's pretty minimal if we're being honest. Rock Slide would definitely be the much better move in this scenario, and like this, Altaria able to KO our Defense Deoxys, and now we are energy dry on our Lantern. We need to stall out the switch clock here, so we're going to be firing the Surf, but as you can see, we are in deep trouble. 2 shields against 2 shields. Opponent's Venusaur is up on energy. What is our win condition here? We need them to be throwing Sludge Bombs. They do fire off the first Sludge Bomb, as of course we will be expending our first shield. And what else is our win condition here? We need to bait the opponent multiple times. We're, I believe, 2 turns behind on energy, so we do grab their first shield with the Frenzy Plant. Will they be throwing another Sludge Bomb? It is the Sludge Bomb. Okay, so we're checking off the boxes of our potential win conditions. We need another successful bait here. Will the opponent be shielding up this Frenzy? They do shield it up. Are we going to be able to reach the Sludge Bomb? We'll never know, as the opponent reads us like a bedtime story, pivots back into their Altaria, and they will be able to KO our Venusaur and outpace us or farm down our Lantern, as we choose to not delay the inevitable. Well played by the opponent. Thank you for the match. Hopping into the next battle, we have a familiar lead, Lantern on the lead against Medicham. Now remember, Lantern will be losing this matchup in the 0 shields, but we are able to narrowly escape this matchup with a win going into the 1s, but we want to make sure that we're preserving our Lantern for potential flyers, specifically Noctowl in the back. And like this, we're going to be swapping out into our Defense Deoxys. Opponent is staying in Medicham against Defense Deoxys, and anytime you see this, it's generally a good thing, but also it should be invoking some thought for you. Why are they not swapping out? As the opponent finally does pivot out, and it will be the Lantern. Defense Deoxys is far ahead on energy here. We're able to land 1 Thunderbolt, and we will be able to land a second, as the opponent is throwing the Surf here. Surf will, unfortunately for them, not be enough to KO us. The question here is, will we be able to reach the next charge move, that being the Psycho Boost, or will we get sparked down by the opponent? They are unfortunately able to fully spark us down. We're going to be bringing in our Venusaur. We're going for the energy head start on the opponent's final 2 Pokemon, and we're able to eat whatever this charge move is going to be. It will be the harder hitting T-Bolt, which is good for the opponent, not great for us, as we do reveal the opponent's final Pokemon, and it will be the Dugong. They go for the catch onto their Medicham, and to be honest, I'm okay with them catching here, as we can grab the opponent's final shield, reach another Frenzy Plant here, and this Frenzy Plant will be enough to KO the opponent's Medicham. Bang! See you later, Medi, and pivot into our Lantern. Now, this is a good matchup for Lantern. Even though we are behind on energy, we're going to be shielding up whatever charge moves the opponent throws at us, even though they are almost definitely going to be baits. Lantern able to fire off the Thunderbolt here, and thanks to the debuff, the Dugong is able to narrowly survive. We're going to respect the potential Drill Run, and it will be the Drill Run. Lantern able to expend its final shield, reach the Surf, and this Surf will easily be enough to KO the opponent's Dugong, as Lantern calls game. Well played by the opponent. Thank you for the match, as it does feel like we're square dancing a bit with swapping in and out of Pokemon, as well as energy generation and management. But hopping into the next one, we have the Dream lead, Pelipper on the lead against our Lantern. Opponent not wanting to play that one out for obvious reasons will be safe swapping into their Registeel. Now we have to swap into our Defense Deoxys, and unfortunately Reggie does get the attack debuff with the first Zap Cannon onto our Deoxys, and this will be critical for us, as we are now going to have to expend 1 shield here or allow DD to go down, and we will allow Defense Deoxys to go down, as I am realizing, okay, we do have Venusaur in the back, which is able to somewhat check Pelipper, even though we will be dealt super effective wing attack damage. Frenzy Plant from a Shadow Venusaur is going to absolutely decimate the Pelipper. As we do see the opponent's final Pokemon, it will be the Galarian Stunfisk. Stunfisk building up a massive amount of energy. They're building to the Earthquake. Will they be expending a shield here to block our Surf? No, they will not, as we will be firing off this next Surf on CMP Tide. Surfs are clearly starting to add up, and this is getting into the late game scenario as the opponent will be defending and preserving the health on their Stunfisk. We call the potential bait, and it is just the Rock Slide bait. So Lantern survives with a decent amount of HP left. We are energy dry. We're going to be pivoting out into our Venusaur. Venusaur nearly at the back-to-back Frenzy Plants here. Let's see how much this is going to do. Will the opponent respect the damage onto their Pelipper? Bang! No, they do not, as Frenzy Plant KOs the opponent from about 75% HP, and we're at another Frenzy Plant. Opponent chooses to not delay the inevitable. They save their final shield as Shadow Venusaur calls game. Well played by the opponent, and shouts out Shadow Venusaur. Thank you for the match. Hopping into the next battle, we have Shadow Alolan Ninetales aligned on the lead onto our... Now, Ninetales is running Charm, and I did have to look up the simulation for this afterward, but Lantern able to easily win the 0 shields. We're able to comfortably win the 1 shields, but we will be losing the 2s. However, you should be throwing the Surfs in this scenario as we're forced to call the bait to win switch here, and it is just the Weather Ball shield bait. Just another disclaimer, I just mentioned it, but in that scenario, you should be throwing the Surfs into your opponent's Ninetales, not the Thunderbolt like I did initially. As we will be pivoting out into our Defense Deoxys, we don't want to get farmed down as we're greeted by the Sableye Safe Swap. Sableye takes the Thunderbolt damage, able to nearly get to the back-to-back foul plays. We'll be KOing our Defense Deoxys. We're okay letting it go down as Deoxys has done its job. We've seen the opponent's lead Pokemon, we've seen their safe swap, so at this point I'm okay with bringing in Venusaur, going for the aggressive Vine Whip down. That's going to be the big question here. We're not going to be able to get it though, as we're forced to expend both shields to get the Vine Whip down. But the opponent reading our plays, they're going to be pivoting back into Ninetales, and I did not remember how much energy Ninetales was at, so I'm going to be firing off a Frenzy Plant to get rid of the opponent's Shadow Charmer. We're going to be firing off the Frenzy Plant into the opponent's final Pokemon, and it will be the Dunsparce. Dunsparce losing track of our energy, continuing to build, and Shadow Venusaur gets to another Frenzy Plant. Bang! That does massive damage. We swap back into our Lantern, forcing the opponent to throw here, but I do believe they're at the back-to-back moves here, unfortunately, as Dunsparce is another Pokemon that is difficult for our lead as well as for our sweeper, as Dunsparce calls game. Well played by the opponent. Thank you for the match. That was a close one as Venusaur did deal hefty damage with that Frenzy Plant. But as we're hopping into the next battle, we have the Dream lead, Pidgeot on the lead against Lantern. This is similar to the first battle, I believe it was, where we're going to be counter swapping into our Venusaur for the obvious reason of Venusaur does not want to see the opponent's Pidgeot. Like this, Venu is going to be aligned against the opponent's Double the Goat. Absolutely love this Pokemon. We're matching shields with them so far, as the opponent will be reaching this next Body Slam, and it does a decent amount of damage, but Venusaur able to take this matchup easily if the opponent's Double does not shield. We do grab their final shield, and we're going to be able to match shields, and we should be able to outpace the opponent, and we are going to just go for that exact play as we expend our final shield, and we're able to narrowly outpace the opponent as we do fire off the next Frenzy Plant on CMP Tie. See you later, Double. You're still the GOAT in my book, but opponent going to be farming down our Venusaur with their Pidgeot. As they go for the catch on the T-Bolt, we're going to be firing off this move into the opponent's Dunsparce. It's not a big deal for us. We should be pivoting out, but Pidgeot has nothing for our Lantern. Like this, we can easily swap into our Defense Deoxys, revealing our final Pokemon as the opponent chooses to not delay the inevitable and calls game. Well played by them. Thank you for the match, and thank you to all of my opponents today in this challenge video featuring Shadow Venusaur. Now, I had an insane amount of time in these battles today, especially using Shadow Venusaur. It's been a hot minute since I've had the opportunity to use Shadow Venu in the open Great League, and it is an absolute beast. It's not much of a tank, as it is relatively glassy, and it does not appreciate a lot of the Pokemon in the meta, so we can't touch Registeel. Obviously, the flyers are a bit of difficulty with Noctowl, Altaria, Pidgeot, but we still do have Sludge Bomb, so we can still hit them for neutral damage in those instances. And throughout today's video, against the Double, against the Dunsparce, and against many other Pokemon, we saw how significant that Frenzy Plant damage is even in neutral situations, as it is yet another example of how absolutely busted those Legacy Community Day moves are. Frenzy Plant, Blast Burn, Hydro Cannon, absolutely busted. Shadow Venusaur taking full advantage of that and able to be an absolute terror in the open Great League in many of those situations. If you made it this far in the video, leave me a challenge down below in the comments. Is there a specific line that you want to see me run that is maybe a little bit off meta or a little bit difficult, doesn't have the best team synergy? Let me know, drop the team line down below in the comments, and I will be happy to do my best to run that line for you. But that's going to be all from me. Thank you so much for stopping by. Remember to enjoy the small things. Peace.